Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Kev, Anil, and Carter. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wonderful Monday evening or afternoon, wherever you might find yourself. Before we jump into everything, just a small bit of housekeeping. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. Also, we have a exclusive interview with ex-Liverpool head goalkeeping coach John Achtenberg. Myself and Charlie had a great interview with him there. We were talking about everything from his views on Alisson, some views on the new Mamardashvili signing, some views on Kelleher and how his transfer rumours and everything have developed. Also, he called Man City cheats and the Ballon d'Or judges idiots. So make sure that you tune into that to make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything either. So let's get into everything. According to Fabrizio Romano, Liverpool are all that Trent Alexander-Arnold wants, which is music to our ears because it's all we want as well. Essentially talks are ongoing at the moment. Trent obviously had conversations with the media that James Pearce put out the other day, where he basically said that it's not going to be played out in the public, same as his last 4 to 5 deals, which was to be expected. But in my mind, I spoke with Patricio yesterday when we were on stream, and he was of the similar opinion to myself of we're about an 8 out of 10 confident that his deal is going to get done. I'll throw it over to my panel mates as well and see how everybody else is thinking about it. Anil, this is my first time on with you, I believe. Welcome to this stream. Hello, how are you? How on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being he's not signing, he's gone to Madrid, he's going to be wearing the white of Madrid next season, and 10 being he's a Scouser for life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you on a confidence level of Trent re-signing and extending his contract with Liverpool?
I think yesterday, after the Trent quotes, I would have probably said like 6.5, 7. But after today, after what Fabrizio Romano said, I'm probably going to say about 8.5, 9. I'd probably prefer it if Trent just doesn't talk. Because I think yesterday, his quote did worry me when he started talking about how he wants to be elite. And it makes me think that he wants to compete for the Champions League trophies. And that did worry me because obviously Real Madrid, they probably are the favourites for Champions League every season, or one of the main favourites. And at Liverpool, it's a bit more difficult to win the Champions League. So I was worried, but I think in general, I always thought Trent will stay because he's a Scouser and the day he loved the club and he had dreams of being a captain. So, yeah, after today, I'm definitely feeling way more positive about it. And I will say, yeah, 8.5.
Yeah, I was saying 8 yesterday, that I was very confident about it. I think that once one of the big 3 gets signed, I think the other 2 fall into place very, very quickly and very, very easily. Kev, we'll call you the man on the ground, considering you're the local boy. But man with the ear to the ground. How on a scale of, like, obviously you can sort of sense the temperature of how everybody is in the locality of Liverpool, of how they feel about, and obviously you've loads of mates that are there and on the locale as well, and that would obviously have more of an in-tune finger on the pulse than we would, so to speak, of how the attitude is towards it. How do you think this plays out? Do you think Trent resigns? Do you think, based on his comments and everything, like, nothing has ever been played out in public by him, so it's obviously going to be private again, and it'll just be announced out of nowhere whether it is or it isn't going to happen. What do you see happening over the next couple of weeks?
I just see a lad who's confident, who's over the last few weeks has gone in confidence and is enjoying his time at the moment under the new manager, which is kind of what you want to see. Every time he speaks so nicely, and he speaks with the enthusiasm of working under Slot and how well he's come across, and that then gives you an element of where he is and where his mind is at the moment. I reckon, for me, it's 99%. There's always that 1% chance that that it won't be. But as Liverpool fans, we nothing like this is always 100%, because we always have the paranoia of the 10% or the 20% that Real Madrid are sniffing around. But that goes with any world-class player that we've got. there will be someone sniffing around either Virgil, whether Salah, whether Alisson when it comes up to his possibility of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's very calm around the ground, and the lads I speak to, it's not one of our first priorities of speaking about. I'm not saying that we're very like nonchalant to the actual idea of the contract, but as fans, they support the team. We shouldn't really be talking about, oh my God, I wonder what we're going to offer them, and you know what I mean. But that's the world that we live in. I see it 99% he will sign, and as soon as he does sign, I do believe it, with yourself, it will be a domino effect with the others, and hopefully that bodes well for us, and you know it puts Richard Hughes in a good light as well. You know, he's come into this. He hasn't asked for it. He's come into this to deal with, and hopefully he can get it resolved as I thought it would be after the transfer window.
Yeah, I thought it would be as well. It'll be around the October time that I said it'll probably end up getting done. Same with Salah and same with Virgil. That is just, you see, Richard Hughes was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. If he focused on contracts and didn't get any transfers through, we have Marmarashvili and Federico Chiesa, obviously, but it would have been an accusation of, you focused too much on contracts. You should have focused on transfers. And then he didn't focus on contracts during the summer. Well, first of all, because 2 of the 3 were away on international tournaments and went deep enough into said international tournaments, and then were on their own holidays. And at that point, then they're coming back into preseason. You're like, look, just get the football down and let's get the heads down and let's get ready for the start of the season. And when we're a couple of weeks into it, we can start talking about it then. That's kind of the way that I looked at it. And it seems to be going that way. Carter, I'll throw the question over to you too, in how confident you are of Trent signing his signature at the bottom of the page. I get more confident day on day. Realistically, especially with his comments that he's made about Slot, that he's a very methodical, sort of sits down with you, shows you 20 different videos of how you could be better, almost similarly to how an American football coach will sit with you after a series of plays and be like, look, you could have gone here, you could have gone here, you could have gone here, watch for this, watch for this, watch for this. It seems to be that, as Jay Muse says, he really likes Slot's honesty and how he coaches and how he approaches to it. That obviously could be a very contributing factor to it as well, couldn't it?
Yes, I definitely think so. And I think I was maybe less confident at the start of the season because I think it's like everyone, you don't just marry someone on the first date. Like Trent's only just met Slot. We don't know how long he's gonna, like, how well it's gonna go. So how can Trent sign a deal after 1 week of training sessions? How can he sign after 3 weeks of games? Like, I'd be shocked if it was before sort of late November, because I think all of those guys will want to see that this isn't fluke, that this is going to be consistent. And I think the big things that are going our way is players inside, the big players at the big clubs might be hearing about what's happening with City and the court case, which is a big thing, because if you tell Trent there's going to be no City, or the feeling within sort of elite football is that City aren't going to be there in a year's time, that's a big reason for him to sign, because it's going to be a lot easier to win trophies. I think this year it will look a lot easier for us to win, because Rodri is going to be it's kind of confirmed that he's going to be out for quite a while.
No, Fabrizio confirmed it was his ACL. He's done for the season. He's gone.
And that's what I mean. And Odegaard's out for a bit. So there's a good chance now for us to put a really strong run together and sort of put ourselves in a strong position. And I think the other big reason for Trent to stay now is kind of the way Madrid is set up. Like, I just think I'm a bit young for the Galacticos, but they brought too many people in and the balance wasn't right. And I almost think you're kind of seeing that. Like, whenever I see the sort of scores in Madrid, they're always coming back late or it's a penalty. And I think Barcelona are looking really good. So I almost think Trent goes, if I go to Madrid now, it's not a sure thing. Like, we've seen this before. They had the best collection of players in the world. And what, Beckham won 1 league in 4 or 5 years when he made the jump. So I think now it looked at the start of the year, it looked like Real Madrid were going to maybe win the league for 10 years in a row. They were going to win the Champions League for 10 years in a row. But now when you've actually seen the sort of front three go, they probably could have done more with Osimhen than maybe an Mbappe, like a big striker. So I think everything is pulling Trent towards staying now, especially with how well Slot's done. So I think, I'd say 7.5, maybe 7.
Yeah, it's realistically looking at it from a point of view of got done so far were 5 wins from 6, 1 loss that was a bit of a freak loss because we had 70% possession. We won the XG battle. It's just one of them games that just doesn't go in your favor, unfortunately, and that happens. And it's unfortunately just one of them. One of the questions I want to kind of to throw at everybody, because I might have a bit of a controversial take on this. Jake asking, is Trent a Liverpool legend? Surely. I don't think he is yet. Now, I'm sure others may disagree with me on that, but Kev, I'll throw it to yourself first. You've obviously I don't mean to insult, but you've seen many more Liverpool legends than most of us have. You're the veteran, shall we call it, of the group. You've seen guys way before. I say way before. That's really insulting. Not way before. You've seen guys before my time. I've seen guys before Carter's time. And I'm not sure what age you are, but I'm sure I think you might have seen guys before Carter's time as well. Like, I remember Michael Owen and the very late 90s, early 2000s would have been as far back as I can remember. But given the context of the situation, would you consider Trent a legend yet, or has he already cemented that yet?
I think this is a very opinionated kind of answer that you're going to give, because the younger side will say he probably is. My first recollection of Liverpool goes back to 1984, in which probably either some on the panel or even someone in our thing win.
I wasn't even an idea at that point.
Exactly, there you go. So that tells you the kind of players that I was coming to the end of Souness's career at Liverpool, before he moved to Sampdoria. So I've seen quite a few. I've been blessed to have seen as many as what I have seen. For me personally, I think if you're looking at what he's won in comparison to any scouser around Steven Gerrard's time, there is an element that says that he is that legend already because of what he has won. He's done something that no one has done since 1990, which is win a league title. So that goes in the element of that. For me personally, I think he's on the road to being one of the best. He will, at the minute, there's only one right back for me, and that's Phil Neal, just due to the amount he won.
I was just about to say as well, he's four
European Cups, and about 6 or 7, or maybe 8 or 9 league titles. He's the most glittering player at the club, and is a legend. Is our right back. But for me, there's no doubt that when he does leave the club, he will be classed not as highly as what Gerrard did, because I think Gerrard does something that no other person can do. But if you look at what he's won, I'd put him on the same kind. If he stays with Liverpool for the rest of his career, he will be as good as probably a Baresi at AC Milan. Because not Baresi, the left back. Who am I talking about? Left back, famous
Maldini, is it? No,
Maldini. Yeah. You put him on that kind of level. I'd say as a right back. I know he played left back, but Maldini for me, for the fact that he stayed at one club and is probably deemed as some as probably the best left back ever to have graced him. But for me personally, he's on the road to, if not already, about 60-70% already down as being a legend at the club already, even if he was to leave without signing a new contract. But for me, there's still a bit more in for him to go, and he has to prove that he does want to do what he said in his comments of being the best right back in the world and the worst one to come up against in Europe. And if he does that and achieve that, then there's no doubt that he'll leave a legend anyway.
Yeah, and on your comments on Phil Neal as well, he's 4 goal contributions away from matching Phil Neal at Liverpool at the moment, which is nuts.
It's impressive. You look at what he's done at right back and look at the assists and goals he scored. He's took it to another level than what anyone thought was imaginable. So credit to him.
Yeah, and both himself and Andy Robertson equal on the most assists by a defender in Premier League history on 59 each. It's nuts. And Jamie has mentioned Cafu has said that Trent is his favourite. And I mean, if anyone was to know about fullbacks, it'd be Cafu. And how would you feel? Would you think that if Trent left next summer on a free and joined somebody like Real Madrid, do you think that immediately eliminates him from Liverpool legend status, or does he have to end his career with us to end in that category?
I think the whole legend thing, it depends how you scale legend. So for me, I think he's a legend already because he's been at the club since 16-17 when he first made his proper appearance. So he's been there for like a good 9 seasons. He won everything you can win as well. He got Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup. I think he's been phenomenal as well. He's been like at some point the best right back in the world some seasons. So for me, he's a legend. Obviously, if you go to Real Madrid, it will hurt some fans, and they might feel emotional about it, so they might not consider him as a legend. But personally, I think he is. But I think Joel Matip a legend, and a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that. So.
Yeah, no, well, like it depends on what your definition of a legend is. Like, I consider Divock Origi a legend purely for that one Champions League run. Like, there's that level to it as well. Like, scoring, just coming on and being that clutch player and scoring 2 goals to send that Barca team packing, and then scoring the winner. I say winner to seal the game in the Champions League final is another thing as well. He just was one of those really clutch players that if he came on, you're like, oh, we're winning this game. It's fine. We don't need to worry about it. We can all sit back. We can have a beer. Divock Origi is going to score a 90+7 minute winner. And it always was the case. It's just how it is. Carter, as we've a good microcosm of Liverpool fans here in relation to ages and everything like that. Obviously, Kev mentioned Phil Neal. You obviously would be on the younger level of scale, so obviously you would have been early 2000s when you were born, never mind when you started watching Liverpool, which is really aging the rest of us. But how would you rate Trent as a legend? Is he already cemented in that status for you? As Kev mentioned, he's one of the first people in about 30 years to win a Premier League title as Liverpool, but we've had many sort of legends, quote unquote, over the years that you have footballers that are like the streets will never forget. We obviously had like the likes of Djibril Cissé, we had Sami Hyypiä, we had Emil Heskey. Like there's so many different players that are like that, and I'm missing so many in just even mentioning those 3. How does he rate as a Liverpool legend for you? And does a move to Madrid for free next season taint that for you?
I would say no. I think he's legend. I think from Klopp's time, there's 6 legends. I think there's Trent, Van Dijk, Alisson, Mane, Firmino, and Salah. I think they're the only undisputable legends. And I think, and I understand what Kev says maybe about Gerrard, but I actually think, because I haven't read it, but as we've probably all seen on Twitter and stuff, there's bits of Ian Graham's book, and they look at sort of signing players and go, oh, this player adds 10 points at left wing. This player would make us 15 points better if we get him up front. I think Trent is the biggest sort of enigma you've ever seen, where at right back, he adds 20 points. He adds 25 points. For me, he is the most important player in Klopp's whole thing. He's the one that put us as close to City as possible. We could have had a different, they may not have been as good as Salah, but we couldn't got a centre-back. Maybe centre-back, but I think defence you can coach better. But I think right back, we could have got nothing like Trent. Like nothing ever. Like there's no one like Trent. And I just think he honestly, in my opinion, a bit like Kobe Bryant, he's going to have 2 Hall of Fame sort of careers. He's going to have the Klopp sort of hero ball, really fast-paced, intense, sort of mad half of his career. And then he's going to have the post-Klopp, which is either going to be Madrid or it's going to be sort of a refined Trent where he still takes risks, but it's not sort of gun-ho and hectic. We have a bit more control. So I think he's already a legend, and I think he's probably, and it's hard. I understand the bit about the older players who've won like 4 European Cups and multiple league titles, But I think now it's maybe not more difficult because I can't really say, but I think there's so much money in so many teams. There's so much more talent available to every team to sign that I think it's even more competitive now. And the fact that we've gone up against a nation state and won a league title is kind of more impressive than all of it's like, and I don't hate to keep using basketball, it's like LeBron James's chip where he came back from losing and he beat the best team, the team with the best record in history, which we kind of did because we beat the Centurions. I think it almost adds to what he's won and he makes it more. So I think he definitely is already a legend, and I think I can't really compare him, but for modern legends, he'll be him, Gerrard, Salah, Van Dijk, sort of as the big four, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. See, it's as Kev said, it's very much an opinionated thing. Obviously, people from an older generation will rate X, Y, and Z players. They'll have Ian Rush, they'll have Phil Neal, they'll have Graham Souness, they'll have other players like that that'll be ranked as legends, and then us that have come up. I think it's very much you need to sort of rank them by era. Obviously, you have your Shankly, Paisley, Klopp, Slot era, so on and so forth, that kind of a way. So there's very much that side of it as well, but it is something that needs to be sort of looked at on an eras level rather than anything else, especially because football has evolved massively since the 80s to now. Like it's a 40-year difference. Sorry, Kev. It's just, it is, unfortunately. Michael here mentioned he is one for me. His legendary status will come if he lifts an English Premier League as captain. He should stick around for a few more years and embrace the captaincy. I fully believe that as well. I think if he is a Liverpool captain, like he's stated many times, that it means more to win a trophy with us. And that's kind of been proven as well by Kyle Walker's comments of that he'd swap every trophy that he's ever won to win a trophy with England. I guarantee you Trent wouldn't say that, because a Carabao Cup with us means more than a Premier League with Man City. To quote a very famous tweet, winning a trophy at Man City is like losing your virginity to a prostitute. That's probably the best way to describe it. It really is. It genuinely is. Like, you're joining a team that, as Carter has mentioned, is a nation state backed team. They're backed by trillions, and that's why they're up in court at the moment on 130 charges, and people thought it was 115, but it was 130. Jamie's mentioning here about Rio's highlights this weekend. I seen them, and he looks unbelievable. He really does. I seen the highlight where he comes in off the right wing, beats two players, swings it in and just gets deflected for a corner. And then from said consenting corner, immediately swings it in and gets an assist from that corner. He is going to be dangerous. Am I on the Red Bull today? No. Hilariously, as I make fun of City, I'm on one of their sponsors. That's probably the funniest way to put it. But we're going to move on to the next couple of topics. So just before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We have our exclusive interview with John Achtenberg in the YouTube videos side of things, so make sure that you jump in and have a look at that. Lots of interesting topics. There was a very fun interview to have with him. I very much enjoyed it as well. But just looking here, just a comment from John that I've saved here that I wanted to bring up and sort of see how everybody's chances are, because we're going to get into how we looked the last 2 months and how some predictions are going to be going forward. John saying, hi guys, how much have our chances improved for winning the league after Rodri's injury? If anybody hasn't known, Rodri has done his ACL, meaning he's practically out for the year. I definitely think it's now a 3-horse race. What is your opinion? John, what 3 horses do you think it is? City, obviously, us and Arsenal, or is it just do you think City are out of the race completely? Carter, I'll throw it over to yourself first, because I think Rodri is a bigger loss than anybody is making out for with City. They won 74% of their games when Rodri played. They only won 64% of their games without him. It's one of the, like, a 10% increase in your loss rate or non-win rate, so to speak, is a lot of points over the course of this long of a season. How do you think this affects City going forward?
I think it's massive. I think not even just that. It's just moments. He turns up so much. Like, he scores a good amount of goals. He's involved in stuff, and I just think the not positive, because look, no one wants a player to have an ACL injury, like, as a person. But for us, it means we've got more chance at winning. And I think the big thing is, I think Pep said De Bruyne's out for maybe 2 or 3 games right now as well. Foden's barely played, and Foden, I think, kind of takes away from Haaland. Like, I think Haaland's much better without Foden on the pitch. And I also think Haaland will get injured. So our big thing is, I don't think we've had a point really where City haven't had Rodri or Haaland. And now they have no Alvarez. And they haven't replaced Alvarez properly. So all of a sudden, they could kind of have what we had in the mad year, where they're playing James McAtee and they're playing Mateus Nunes, and they had 18 different midfield partnerships that we had centre-back partnerships. So I think we've got a real chance. And you don't want people to get injured, but a few not bad challenges, a few little injuries here and there, and City could really lose momentum, and we can just pull ahead, hopefully, like we did the year we won the league, and sort of have like 26 wins on 1 loss, hopefully. But yeah, I think it gives us a massive boost.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it's absolutely monumental. Kev, would you be of a similar opinion to Carter and how you'd view this Rodri injury? Like, the depth of City is really something that you sort of have to think about, because obviously, thanks to their luck, shall we call it, they've been able to sign players for very large fees that they're just happy to be able to sit on the bench. Do you think that I personally think there's no replacement for Rodri? An injury to Rodri is similar to us losing Trent for a season, or losing Van Dijk for a season, or losing Alisson for a season. I genuinely think it's that level of change, that it's that instrumental of a change. Would you be of a similar opinion to Carter, that this could be probably influential in the Premier League race so far?
It could be, and you can't argue with what Carter said. The only thing is, we're only 5 games in.
Yeah.
So let's not be getting carried away with ourselves and think that we're, that gives us confidence. You know what I mean? We should have confidence in the way we're playing. We shouldn't be irrespectively looking at how other teams are and what's happening to them and wishing or hoping that certain injuries happen. There's an element of luck with injuries, and it's how innocuous it was. It just shows how fragile certain players can be, especially with the amount of games that we're seeing that these players are playing. And it's sad in a way that I'll be honest, I'd sooner he was fit, and we beat them playing their strongest 11. I want the strongest teams, to say that, so it doesn't give anyone an excuse to say that.
Yeah.
Well, if we would have had this and we would have had that. So we're only 5 games in. It bodes well for those title-looking teams at the minute. A good indicator that will probably be the betting, because no doubt the betting will have changed slightly. I wouldn't say much, but there may be a slight movement within the betting market because of it. And especially with the stats that you got with Rodri, there's no doubt that you lose a quality player in Rodri. It's hard to find someone of a backup that they've got. And it then goes to question, they go into the January transfer window looking for someone of a similar ilk. Time will tell. But no, it looks good for us. All we've got to do is concentrate on ourselves and hope that we can look back at this and say, well, that was one of the elements, that was one of the reasons why we it took away from City. But for me, it's only as good as much as what you make of it. So it depends how many points we pick up between now and the end of the season will determine how much it's worked in our favour. But it bodes well for everyone who's in that title race for me.
Yeah, it really does. And look, I'm one of the, I know Jamie used to say to be respectful and everything like that. Last season I was very respectful of absolutely everybody's injury and how everything went, and how I tried to build some karma, but we got absolutely fuck all of it, unfortunately, because we got absolutely bet with injuries. So I'm taking the reverse psychology situation this season and hoping that works out, and say I hope Rodri never walks again. And you can take that as a joke, you can take that as serious, you can take that whatever way you want. But I was very nice about everybody's injuries last season, and we got absolutely bet with them. We got no good karma whatsoever. So I'm hoping the reverse of it this season will give us some good karma. As Jamie's mentioned, if you have any questions at all, please, for the panel, please do leave them in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as we have. I have a couple saved here in relation to it. Obviously, Jamie was here. Let's keep it classy. I really didn't. It's one of them. We had John obviously mentioning. And one of the questions that Jamie was mentions is, in regards to Rodri's injury, can we please continue to discuss too much football being played and certainly having a part in injuries? Would you be in agreement with that? Or how would you view it? Like, realistically, the way that I view it is there probably is too much football, but the only reason I think there is too much football is these international breaks. We have 2 before we hit November, which then condenses an awful lot of games, and then you have another couple in the latter part of the season, and you're like, if everything just kind of moved to the summer, and you had these are like, nobody cares about the Nations League. I know people say they do, but they don't. Like, it's the World Cup and the Euros and the Copa and the Africa Cup of Nations. They're the big ones. They're the ones that people, and sorry, the Asian Cup as well. Obviously, they're the big ones. They're the ones that people care about. Nobody really cares about the Nations League. It's just a kind of tournament. It's a money grab, in my opinion. Anil, would you consider the international breaks a problem? Do you consider fixture congestion a problem, or is there even a problem to begin with? Should teams maybe increase their squad size to allow for more depth?
I think it's both, as you're saying. So I think, like, obviously Nations Leagues are glorified friendlies, ain't it? And that's obviously having an impact as well. Because, like, I don't understand how we had 2 international breaks already, which is a bit, it's just stupid, ain't it? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And I think we obviously with the Champions League, there's obviously more games now, and I know the Club World Cup has expanded as well. So, like, I've heard that it's gonna, when that finishes, it'll be 3 weeks before the Premier League season starts. So that's not going to be good for the players, in it. It's going to make it even harder, and especially when you're playing the top 5 leagues as well, because it's very intense, and every game you have to give your all. So they definitely played a part. I think the international breaks is something that should be considered as well, because, like, too many international games as well.
Yeah, I think just move all the international games to the summer. You then end up being able to be like the Bundesliga, where you could have, especially in a league like the Premier League, where you have 4 different trophies going on at one time, where you especially for the top teams like ourselves, where you have your European teams, your European competition, your Premier League competition, your Carabao Cup, and your FA Cup. Like, it's one of them that is just, if you're a top team in the Premier League, or if you're in European competition in the Premier League, you're suffering because your squad depth obviously needs to be more. And we've seen teams that maybe overachieved, like Brighton, all of a sudden come foul of injuries and stuff like that, and then fall back down the order again and have to fight their way all the way back up. We've seen at the end of last season, obviously, Palace made a great run, and then they kind of just fell to the wayside. Last season, Newcastle, perfect example of it. They got absolutely decimated by injuries, albeit they weren't in the competition long, but all of a sudden these extra games midweek and fixture congestion at the start of the season scuppered the rest of their season. United, well, whatever nice things we can say about United, it was a similar situation to them, that they kind of just fell by the wayside because of injuries too. It is one of them worrying things. I genuinely think that if you just moved the international football to the summertime and just not worried about it, even if it was just the Nation Leagues games, and then like you only have an international competition every second year, be it the Euros, be it Copa. The Nations League doesn't clash with Africa Cup of Nations, so it's just European teams at that point. So them having their thing in January is another thing as well. It's just, sometimes there is too much football, and I think the money side of things is influencing it a little bit too much. There will end up, as I think Rodri said it, I don't know if it was Rodri that said it, that there'll be a strike by the players. There probably will be. That's just the way that I look at it.
Steve, just on that, you've also got the FIFA Club World
Championship.
The
Club World Cup too. Well. Like, I think Rodri, I think if City went all the way through and played, if City played every game, including all the way up to the FA Cup final, the EFL. Now, I don't like City, but I hate the fact that I have to use them to defend this. If they went to the Carabao Cup final, the FA Cup final, the Champions League final, which they have the capacity to do, whether they do it or not is a different story. Play all the games in the Premier League, and then play
international games, AFCON as well. So AFCON will be in January as well, won't it?
No, it's got skipped a year, so it's not 2025, 2026. So we got to skip that, thankfully, which means we don't lose Salah in January, which is amazing. and he can focus on this full year, and it doesn't happen until after he's left and gone to Saudi that we don't have to worry about him. I joke, of course. But I think at club level, if you go all the way to Jamie was only even mentioned in club games, not even World Cup qualifying games, not even Nations League games, nothing like that, not even qualification games for international level. At club level alone, if City, because they're obviously in the Club World Cup, if they make it to the final of the Club World Cup, if players will have played about 90 games throughout a whole year, 90 games of football, and then on top of that, obviously they'll have zero break, as Carter mentioned, 3 weeks before the Premier League starts. You're asking for your best players to be injured, and you're going to end up with a situation like the NBA where it's load management by all of the best players, where they'll only play 50 games a season as opposed to 82 that they would have normally played. And the NBA had to bring in rules that for season-ending awards, like your MVP, your Defensive Player of the Year, all that stuff, you had to play a minimum of, I think it was 62 games, something like that. And so you don't want that, because that's essentially me, Kev, like somebody like me. Kev, you go every week. I know it doesn't mean, not that it doesn't mean much to you, but like somebody like myself that would travel that I'm from Ireland, that I would travel to Liverpool, that I want to see the biggest players on the biggest stage and I want to see them play. If I land and all of a sudden it's a midweek, it's a game on a Saturday against Bournemouth, and it's a not so important game, and Virgil, Salah, Trent, Gakpo and Gravenberch have all decided, we're going to rest today, don't worry about it. I'm kind of sat there like, I wanted to see my favorite players play, and now it disincentivizes the product, which then leads to people not watching the games anymore, which then leads to the product becoming worse, which leads to viewership leaving, which leads to less money. And that's what's happened in the NBA. And it's really worrying to see players threatening to strike over this. And I think it's probably about time that people pull the finger out. It is one of them. Michael mentioned, and Klopp did well using the under 23s in the EFL. Should Slot do the same? And big trophies for the big players. Give game time to youth and bench players. Something he has been very, very instrumental in doing is giving game time to his youth players. He focuses a lot on youth. Speaking of which, we have a game in the EFL coming up on Wednesday. Anil, how do you see much rotation happening in this game on Wednesday?
Yeah, I see heavy rotation. So I think the whole lineup will be changed apart from Kelleher. I can see a back four of Bradley, Quansah, Gomez, and probably Tsimikas, and then maybe a midfield three of Morton or Leone with Endo and Jones, and then the front three. Front three, I want to see Gakpo. I want to see Gakpo left wing. I want to see Jota up front, and I'm really excited to see more Chiesa. So
yeah,
I really want that team, and I think that team is strong enough as well to beat West Ham at home, because West Ham hasn't had the best start of the season, and there's enough quality in that lineup to do it. And I think what the comment was saying before about Klopp, in the early years he wasn't doing so well in the cup, but then I think as time gone on he has learned more, and I also think our young players have gotten better as well. Like, so the quality we're bringing through the academy is a lot stronger than it was when Klopp first came in. So I'm excited, and I'm really excited to see the young players, and especially for Chiesa. I think that lineup I just said, I think that definitely has the capability of doing it.
Oh, easily. Like, West Ham have conceded first in 4 of their 5 Premier League games. Like, Kev, would you see much rotation now on Wednesday? Like, as Anil said, he sees basically 10 changes outside of Kelleher. Would you be of a similar opinion?
I would, but my heart rate and my body is not capable to cope with the 90 minutes of Kostas Tsimikas playing at left back. Sorry, everything else I agree with. I expect something. I wouldn't be too far away to what Jay Moose is saying about Naoni probably playing as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the back four, the back five, I agree with Anil. I'll probably go with Jay Moose's midfield, the midfield three, and the forward three. I'll go with Anil as well. So yeah, so it's it's easy for me. But yeah, I'm not ready for that 90 minutes, if I'm being perfectly honest. But that's just me.
I can't wait for him to put in an absolute worldie and get 2 assists. It's going to be unreal. Be eating your words. It'll be brilliant.
I hope so. I really do. But
Carter, how do you think we see West Ham rotation? Obviously, like they've been pretty woeful under their new regime. Kudus hasn't gotten off really well. Bowen hasn't been hitting the lights like he did last season. Ariola's been conceding goals left, right, and centre. They've just not looked like as much as we clown David Moyes, West Ham have not looked like they did last season. How do you see heavy rotation and many youth players such as Neoni, maybe Morton getting a chance on Wednesday?
Well, I think looking at West Ham first, I think the issue is Lopetegui is just not very good. Like, I think some things he does well. I think they do, honestly, I think there'll be a bit maybe where they turn it around because they do have a talented squad. I think some of the players they signed, probably they just didn't need to. They're just like 6 out of 10s. But I think for us, we don't know. If this was Klopp, it would be a lot easier to say. But I almost think he might keep Nunez, Szoboszlai and Robertson in. Because I think it's a big change to do loads of them. There's no point risking it. And especially considering we lost at home, our last home game. So I think if you keep Robbo in, you can get away with playing Tsimikas against Wolves in the league. I think Szoboszlai, I was at work, so I didn't see it properly. But Szoboszlai came off around 60 minutes now.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
So, and we have no number 10. And I think it would be a big ask for Trey to maybe go there. So I think you see Szoboszlai there, maybe hopefully Curtis Jones and Tyler Morton behind him. And then I'd say Chiesa. But I just think you don't want to change it too much. Like, I think Robbo at left back, I don't think he's great, but I think a bit of experience, a bit of sort of match fitness, match readiness. Conor Bradley's played a few minutes. So I think maybe I keep Kelleher, Nunez, Szoboszlai and Robbo and then change the rest.
Yeah, Jamie is mentioning here that he sees Gakpo. It's one of them. It's interesting to see how much rotation that we would get. But we're going to move on to one of the last topics of the day. And before we get into that, just to make sure to ask everybody to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We have our exclusive interview with John Achterberg, with myself and Charlie on the podcast, available on Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, the whole lot. And it's also, we have a video format of it on the channel too. Make sure you're listening to that. A lot of good stuff on that too. So make sure you don't miss out on that. But the last topic essentially is just where, as Carter mentioned, one of the players in the team that he'd keep in, which is Darwin Nunez, and how he's kind of been waiting in the wings for his chance, and that when he came on, genuinely, as a lot of his naysayers have asked, is who was that number 9 for us in how he played against Bournemouth. And look, a lot of people will say that it was Bournemouth and sound, whatever. But at the end of the day, he really, really, really played well. And I think that he probably had one of the best games of his career. And how did you view him as a player as he in that game against Bournemouth? And how do you see his progression going forward? Like, do you see him as a key contributor going forward? Do you think maybe it's between him and Jota? Or is it just head and shoulders Nunez above Jota at the moment? How do you view it?
I think Nunez, he can just explode in moment, can't he? So like against Bournemouth, that goal was just like unreal. That's what he does, isn't it? He can miss an easy chance when the score goes like that, which is just which is crazy. But I think what we can't afford, I think what we can't do is drop him. I think he needs that run of game to keep his confidence going and get the momentum going. So I think Darwin is a confident player. And I think last season we've seen patches of that. But then there's obviously things that came in the way, like he had an injury before the League Cup final, I think, and that kind of disrupted his momentum a little bit. I want to see him get a run of games, and I want to see how far Darwin can go this season. I think Arne must have been doing a lot of good work with him behind the scenes. Like obviously, when he come off the bench, we haven't seen much from him, but I'm confident that they would have trained him really well behind the scenes and got him working under Arne properly. So I think with a proper run of games, I'm quite excited. I think Nunez can do it. I believe in him, and I've always talked about him. Last season, there's always debates about Nunez, and I'm always trying to defend him. It's been hard. It's been hard at the start of the season, but I think he can do it, and I think he just needs to win a game to try and show that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's strikers are confidence players, Kev, when you think about it, and it's one of them that he needs a run of games. Needs to get a couple of goals in them games. A question that Daniel Underwood, another one of the hosts, threw to me in the group chat earlier is, what would you view as a good season for Nunez? And I said anything as close to a 2020 season as possible, with 20 goals in all competitions and 20 assists in all competitions. And he came fairly close to that last season, with 18 goals and 13 assists in all competitions. Do you want your striker to be just an out-and-out goal scorer, or would you rather an all-rounder that gets assists and goals at the same time? How do you see Nunez developing for the rest of the season?
I want to see consistency, and I don't want him to get too high when he has a good game and too low when he gets low. He needs to have a level of playing that is consistent with the way we and the style that we want to play, and he has shown that he can do that. I hope he can achieve that, and if he accomplishes that, then anything is achievable and mountable. And I wouldn't be putting a target on him of that. If he gets similar or he gets better than last season, then we've seen improvements, and it's about him not getting. For me, it's consistency, and not getting too high when he's had a good game and too low when he gets low. If he does that, then he can accomplish anything, and he can make that number 9 his own. But if he doesn't, then it will fall down on him. He's got the help of the coaches. The supporters are behind him. So that's all that should matter for him. And if he does that, then we'll see the player that we actually think a lot of us know is in there with him. But yeah, so far he was given his opportunity. He's took it. It's now what he does with that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think he has the potential to have an absolutely monster season. I thought he had a fantastic season last season. Obviously, other people disagreed with me. Carter, you've mentioned that Nunez is going to be pivotal for us this season and how we perform in the league and in other competitions. How, after Saturday's game, are you still resolute in that fact and see how he and how he performs going forward? Do you still think that he is the key to how we do in the tournaments coming forward?
I think he's really key, and I think before, sort of as the season started, I said, in my opinion, I think before the first game, I think he'll play Jota for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 games, because the floor with Jota is higher than the floor with Nunez, but the ceiling with Nunez is significantly higher than the one with Jota. Because I just think Slot looks and went, we just need control. We don't maybe need to have as many chances. We don't need to maybe do as many crazy and creative things. We just need calm and controlled games. And I think he's now got to the point where he's confident in the midfield. He's confident in the defense. He's gone, let me add this new dynamic. And I think the big issue for Nunez last year was and I know a lot happened to him, was Luis Diaz. Mm-hmm. I think if Nunez... And I know Kev said you need consistency. I think he's always going to be a slightly inconsistent player. But if you have a slightly inconsistent player, you need to surround him with consistency. And I think Matt has underperformed his XG quite a lot last year. And he's not really super creative. Like, he doesn't have lots of chances created a game. But I think now we've got a team where there's just consistency. So I think Nunez can thrive. And I also think a big thing for me is the number 10 behind him. And I almost think there'll be games where maybe Szoboszlai might get dropped and it might be Curtis Jones now, just because if someone's losing the ball a lot, you might maybe go until Szoboszlai improves on the ball, maybe you have Jones, because apparently he played quite well on the weekend. So I think, I'm really excited to see how Nunez does, how Slot fits him in. And I also think Chiesa, sort of someone who crosses the ball a lot, who sort of adds another threat on the wings, he could also maybe get him a few more headed goals. Like, that hasn't happened for a while. So I think someone like him, because I honestly think for Nunez, headed goals are probably easier than finishing. So I think that would be something that would help him as well.
Yeah, massively. And I think Chiesa is probably the best signing that we're going to make in a long while, realistically, because in the breakdown that I made from he's very much a creator rather than a goal scorer. He creates for those around him. And I can see how some people would want him in the 10. I completely get that. He's very much he's better on the right wing. He's absolutely rapid with his pace, and his pass entries into the penalty area are absolutely bonkers. Like even last season alone, he was up there with some of the single best in the world in the top 5 leagues of chance creation, winning his dribbles, creating chances, getting passes into the penalty area. He was one of those that just peppers balls into the penalty area. And eventually, look, people say that Nunez doesn't finish his chances. You give him enough, he'll finish 2 or 3. And I think that's kind of maybe the attitude people are taking. Red Indian, thank you so much for your 200 rupees. Before the game, I was thinking that maybe make Diaz play in the middle like Mane with Jota from the uncertainty about Nunez. If Nunez goes stale, we should put Diaz in the middle with Gakpo left, Jota better on the left as a substitution. I don't disagree with that. I think that would be something that could go forward. One of our other hosts, Charlie, mentioned that as well, where he would be able to go and play from the center and be our main striker. And he only mentioned that in the lead up to the Bournemouth game, and then Diaz goes and bangs in 2 goals in the Bournemouth game. So maybe you're onto something there. But again, we appreciate the 200 rupees. We really, really, really do. It helps the channel. It all goes back towards it, and it's very much appreciated. That is more or less everything, folks. We're going to leave it there for this evening, just ending a little bit earlier than normal. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this wonderful Monday evening. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We have our John Achtenberg interview that's been released over the weekend. Make sure you stick around and watch that too. It's about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Myself and Charlie just asking him a load of questions on some people that we could have signed. He mentioned that we were close to signing Manuel Neuer back when he was at Schalke, which would have been absolutely nuts. Along with how he rated our goalkeeping room over the years as well. So make sure you stick around for that. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Red Indian, thank you so much for your contribution as well. It's absolutely really, really appreciated. And we hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 7:30. Bye-bye.